Welcome to another episode of our podcast. Today we are so happy to have two good friends of mine. We have all the way from Ireland, which is very exciting.
Northern Ireland.
Thank you, Emma. I was about to say Northern Ireland.
Yeah, Northern Ireland. I'm sorry, I know it's territorial. We have Michael and Amy with us. Today is Valentine's Day, and I just want to add a little bit of thought before we have our guests come in and have a chin wag with them. And it's simply this, that we're actually created for relationships. And it's an interesting thing because when you see a dog in the street and if it's injured, a normal human being with compassion will want to try to help that animal. Some people, like my mum, will take this strained animal in and feed it. Doesn't matter how long it takes, we'll feed this animal and look after it to her cost. And when you think about why is it that we have this connection to animals and one another, well, it's because God created us like that. In the beginning, there was Adam, and God gave him the animals, but he wasn't really having a proper relationship with them. So he says, I must give you a woman to have a relationship with. And that's why we have this. And, you know, we're so desperate for relationships that even though we've got computers and we build them, we've made them talk to us. We can say, hey, Google, and Google doesn't just talk in a voice. It's actually a human voice for that connection. And so today I'm so happy to have Amy and Michael with me to talk about marriage and relationships and all the things in between. And I promise I won't throw too many hardballs at you guys. So first of all, how long have you guys been married?
We have been married since May 2020.
So that's
You're gonna count.
August, September, October, November, December, January, February. Oh, 10 months nearly. Nearly 10 months on nearly 10 months.
So you're in what they officially call the honeymoon period of the marriage then?
Yes.
Yes.
Except because of lockdown, you guys didn't
Have
No,
had
no.
no honeymoon.
But we did go away to Ennismore for a couple of days.
Yeah, we went sort of west of Northern Ireland
For
a few days.
for a honeymoon, as I called
A
it.
honeymoon.
a honeymoon. That's a good phrase. That's going to be a new cat. Honeymoon.
Yeah.
You think? Great. And so you guys have pretty much got married, and then you're in lockdown together.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How before we get into that, how did you guys meet? Let's start at the beginning. How did this blossom and romance happen?
We met in 2013.
Yes, it was at a games night, our youth.
Yeah, we went to the same church. I think I started going probably about a year before you started going to that church.
Possibly, I think so. I remember the night you got baptized.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where we met. We met at the youth on a Saturday night. It was a games night.
Yeah. And I think we didn't think much of each other at that point.
So it wasn't like love at first sight, as they say.
Don't think so.
No, you were going out with somebody else at that point, I think.
Yeah.
And I just got to know you as a friend. And
Yeah. But we became friends, I think, after that night.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So at what point did you both decide, you know, this is the person that I'm going to start dating? And
Michael decided in 2015.
And Amy said no.
you said no to him.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, it was after, I can still remember the date. It was in February. And she said, no, I don't
Think of you that way.
And I was kind of sad about it. Let's just put it that way. I was like,
I think it was more just being really good friends with you and just not wanting to like ruin that. And then I also had my reservations about what Michael wants to do for a living, and I just worried about how I would fit into that. And then so we actually it didn't ruin the friendship, which was good.
Yeah.
We just sort of carried on the way we were, and then actually in 2018 we started seeing each other and things started to change.
Yeah. I just want to clarify my profession. It's nothing dodgy or dangerous. I want to be a pastor when I'm in future.
Yes.
You can't let that open ended. It sounded like I was going to be like a drug lord or a warlord or something there.
I was going to just leave it and let the crowd guess, but I'm glad you.
I was just, because I imagine people listening to this and going, what in the heck?
What was he planning to do with his life?
What was he planning to do? But no, I remember talking to you in 2018 at church, and then we talked about meeting up for coffee. We did.
Yeah.
And we kept meeting up. And then Amy confused me a bit. She was trying to coax that I liked her, and I was trying to impress her by drinking an espresso.
Michael doesn't drink coffee.
I was trying to impress her, but it tasted like warm dirt.
And he was slowly spitting it out back into the cup. Very attractive.
Very attractive. I'm very smooth as sandpaper, as I like to say. And she said, "No, this is not a date." And I was like, "Oh, I thought it was." But she was trying to coax out me saying, "No, this is a date." And then
Keith, you know what women are like.
And
They
then-
don't say it straight.
and then finally she got tired of it and then just said, "I like you."
Yeah. And that was that.
And she made the first move. So I was like, okay.
That's great. It's encouraging to know as well that you start to get to know each other, building up that friendship before this relationship.
Oh, yeah.
So how key is that, do you think, before people start really dating and taking things seriously?
I do think, like, I think different things work for different people, but for I think for us, like, we're very, very glad because we, you know, knew of each other's family dynamics for a long time, and before we got into a relationship, and we knew about each other's just background and stuff like that, and you know where we were at with jobs and education. And it's not about that, but we just sort of knew where each other were just because we kept in touch, and you know we would have, you know, we had similar friendship circles at times, and then you know as we grew up a little bit, then not so much, and then you know we sort of knew as well just about each other's Christian faith and about our, you know, church and things like that, which was quite helpful.
Yeah,
probably.
Well, it was like for every person's story of how they met their other half is different, but there has to be
a bit of time getting to know each other,
but also have a strong friendship in the sense of, you know, basically me and Amy know everything about each other. There is no secrets. There is no skeletons. We know absolutely everything about each other.
And like the number one thing is you actually know that you like the person as a person, which is good, because at least you can't get swept up in it and then be like, I actually don't like you. You're horrible, you know.
So it's not just
horrible. She's not horrible.
No.
So it's not just a skin deep thing, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's key because you do see a lot of people who are physically attractive to one another, but then their characters are what we call, trying to not be hip here, but toxic. It's like a very toxic relationship, and that's great. You mentioned about faith, and obviously you both believe in Jesus and have a strong faith in that. For Christians, how key is it for them to find another Christian, if you like?
I think for some people, you know, that's not what they feel called to have, but I think for a lot of people, like you say, we're drawn to companions. We're drawn to wanting company and companionship and romance and, you know, a life partner, I suppose. And I suppose in the world, it's okay for you to have a partner for a long time and to have a family and children, or to travel or live together and stuff like that, or maybe multiple partners. But for us, that's not what we really wanted. So I think for a lot of people in our position and a lot of young adults that are Christians, it's key to find someone and have that romantic connection and to get married, because that's, you know, you're wanting someone to, I hate to use the hip phrase, do life with.
Yeah.
And if we're going to throw those phrases about, but, you know, people are looking for that, and they're looking for something, you know, more than a friendship, and they're looking for someone to move in with and stuff. But it's just different. But it is still key, but it has to look different, I think, for us.
Yeah. And when it comes to faith, I find that we all have different, we and Amy have to come from two different backgrounds. Our stories of faith and how we came to know Christ is different. And sometimes how we see things actually blesses each other more and helps each other more grow in our own faith personally, but also together as a couple.
Yeah.
Especially as I've done my itinerant preaching and I hope to be a pastor one day in the future. She helps me grow in my faith every day, even in simple conversations. And I know for her, like when I run my sermon ideas by her, she says, "Oh, that's interesting. That's a good point. But Michael, you should bring out this. You should bring out that."
Yeah.
Just
application.
Just application and just growing together. It might be just from one verse or one chapter that we're reading off.
So do you think that then Keith is asking,
Oh, sorry,
do you think
Robin.
about, yeah. He was just asking, do you think it's like important?
It is important because I've seen it as a youth leader and even in friends going out with non-Christian. Maybe it does work out for some, but you would drag someone down.
People can look for the
Yeah.
wrong things when they're looking for a companion, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I know people who just walked away from the faith as soon as they went for and see a person and just didn't care about the faith.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm not saying every Christian's perfect, because there are some Christians who are quite dangerous in the sense of not living as they should. And, you know, a good measuring stick would be, do they live and speak the way Jesus taught us to?
Yeah.
And going forward from there, do they bring out the best in you? Do they hate this, pray for one another, love one another, forgive one another, and demonstrate that not just in the relationship, but to demonstrate that in their family and even in your other half's family as well, in that kind of regard. So that's why I think faith is important.
Does that answer your question?
It
Well,
does.
I rambled.
No, it's a podcast. We're supposed to. No, that's great, and I think you bring out some key points there, especially about if you want to be a speaker and a preacher, having a non-Christian relationship would be a drag on that, and then finding that measure of, even though you may not agree on it all, building one another up in the faith it's great.
Yeah.
So why you did mention about some people moving in together and stuff before they get married and stuff like that. Why didn't you guys do that? Why did you just wait till you were married, if you did?
I think because it just sort of was important to us. I think that's one of the things that made us sort of not move the wedding. So we were initially meant to be married in the April, Keith, as you know, and that big day had fallen away through the lockdown in Northern Ireland. And I think at that point, most of Michael's stuff was moved in, but Michael wasn't moved in. And the whole idea was that I would go from my house on the wedding day. Michael would go from his home where he was still living with, because this could be months, it could be a year. We, just for context to people that don't know, still haven't had our big celebration day. The only wedding we've had is the wedding that we're going to talk about. So we would have been waiting nearly another whole year, if not longer. And we knew that we wanted to live together and start our life together. And we also knew that, I know restrictions are different across the whole of the UK and worldwide, but in Northern Ireland, we knew that because our families have support commitments and have a bubble, we couldn't have a bubble with each other.
Yeah.
So it was a big decision then to be like, look, we've already agreed that we're going to live together, that we're going to start our lives together, that we're going to get married. So let's just get married, because then we can move in together. So apart from that short amount of time when we ended up in the same household, we didn't live together. And I think it was important just because we'd planned to move in together after the wedding, which obviously ended up being about a month after the initial one.
Yeah,
About a month, just over a month.
just a month and 3 days or so, something daft like that.
Yeah, but you ended up in the small box room for a while, bless you. It turns out, just for anyone that's wondering, single beds in box rooms are meant for children, not men who are 5'10" and over, because we found that out the hard way when Michael was in the fetal position trying to get to sleep in a little blue and flowery bedroom.
My flowery wallpaper.
Beautiful. But yeah, that even for us, that was a learning curve. But back to the question, yeah, it was important for us not to. I think because of our faith, because we obviously just, we just don't, it's not that we have any issue with people that do choose to, but we just don't particularly.
That's what we
didn't want to live together before we got married. We just thought it added in the whole realm of temptation and stuff like that we didn't want.
Yeah.
We didn't need, it wasn't that much of a big deal. Obviously, now, had this been further into lockdown and a year down the line, you don't know. Maybe our goalposts would have changed because we would have just missed each other. It's hard to know. But the position we were in was that it was very early lockdown. We had already, for example, pre-lockdown, pre-pandemic, we had our stag and hen do. So that's how close we were to this wedding.
Yeah.
We'd had a normal pre-COVID stag and hen. And all of that. So yeah, we mostly held off, and then were able to move you into the big boy bedroom,
which has no flowers but has flowery patterns on the paintings.
Yes, that's true.
So I've graduated from a bunch of flowers to
But what's your
singles.
thought? Do you think that it's important not to live together?
Yeah, because they're
I already know the answer, but
yeah,
I'm just going to get
what-
his answer for you.
what
Oh,
she
thank
said and more. Yeah, for us, we wanted to be married, to be husband and wife, and to spend our lives together under God's covenant of marriage. And when we found out through your maid of honor that we could get married with a few witnesses and the minister, we went for it.
That's a good friend who rings you up and says, I think you can get married outside.
Yeah. And we got married. Sorry. And we found this out on a Thursday through your friend. You phoned up the registry office. Pre-COVID days, here's a funny story. The lady who registered our marriage notice looked at my birth certificate, and then she went, she's got her college rank. She was the lady who registered my birth in 1992.
She was like, that's my signature on your birth certificate. I can't believe that.
I know, I'm now doing your marriage, and I went, I hope you don't do my death certificate either.
I know, being married in lockdown, it's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But we had that all sorted out, and then you phoned, and there was a wonderful registrar, Wendy. She's thinking, right, where can we get, where's nice places in Belfast outside? Yes, we can do it for you. Paperwork can be done, no problem. She was a legend, got everything done for us.
You're ruining the rest of Kate's questions.
Sorry.
no, I continue.
Sorry. And then we decided to get married on the Saturday.
Yep.
And got it all sorted.
Great. And it's good that you guys are on a very similar page to me, in that when people move in together, they are adding a temptation to do things that obviously God's not permitting before marriage and things like that. And also, I think if that doesn't work out, I've had friends who've moved in, non-Christian friends who've moved in with girlfriend and boyfriend and stuff like that. And if that doesn't work out, it's almost the same feeling as it is for a divorce, because they've moved all that stuff in and they've spent even like years together, and then suddenly something comes through and it's just
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult because then you've worked on decorating a house together. Maybe you've bought furniture between yourselves,
Or the mortgage is in both your names.
yeah, you maybe have a joint tenancy, a joint mortgage. You've got all your shared belongings, maybe a pet, things like that, and hopefully not maybe children. And then obviously, yes, there's always a risk that with marriage you might get divorced, but it's much less likely to happen so early, whereas I think if you move in together, potentially, as you say, for some people it doesn't work out after years, for some people it doesn't work out after months, and you've put all that energy and everything, and you've got legal ties and stuff to someone that actually it hasn't worked out with. Whereas I think whenever you're a Christian and you go into marriage, you're sort of looking at it as, well, look, if after 2 months you want to kill each other, tough luck. You've made this decision.
That's
and
no
you need
reflection
to
on
just
marriage.
work on it. Whereas I think it's a lot easier to get out of something that's not legally binding. So yeah, it's tricky.
good. And when you were getting married during the lockdown and that was going on, was that a strange moment? Because you obviously have in your head what your wedding looks like, I assumed, and you planned the seating and stuff like that. But
Oh yeah.
It was, I actually, you know what, like, it was whenever I was getting ready and I was all biz, because that's probably a very Northern Irish thing, but I was very excited, and I was, doing my hair and my makeup on my own. And then it just hit me. I was just thinking to myself, I'm on my own. I'm completely on my own with like a Spotify playlist in my bedroom doing my hair for my wedding. And I think it was about half an hour before, and I just thought, this is so sad. This is so sad.
But tell them about your dress.
Well, yeah,
That's it.
about an hour before, my dress hadn't even arrived, because my actual wedding dress was still in the still unaltered in the dress shop that wasn't open because of lockdown. So I went online to a dodgy Chinese website for £25, got myself one that I thought might do the job, and it hadn't arrived, and I literally didn't know what I was wearing. I had a few dresses that had white in them, and I thought, well, that would probably do the job. It was a very hot day, so I had loads of summer
sounds
dresses.
like a don't tell the bride moment where
yeah,
It was.
yeah, it was just, we just honestly, I think at this point we were so fed up with not being able to live together, because we knew that like we shouldn't be, and we didn't want to, and we knew that if you know, we didn't get married. We weren't going to be in the same household. Michael was going to be back at his mum's and I was going to be on my own. And I think, you know, we'd all, obviously our wedding day had been and gone. So in our minds, we should have been married. It wasn't like we'd been together a month and then decided, actually, do you know what, let's get married because it's lockdown, you know, because we had these plans and we had it all sorted and everything, I think. And also, like, at this point, just like a bit of context, we had to completely reschedule our big wedding day because we didn't want to lose the money and we didn't want to let down suppliers and take their income away from them. So we'd rescheduled it to another date and we'd managed to move that all in one day with really excellent, you know, Christian suppliers and stuff that helped us. But we'd pulled together in that and we'd seen how we've been able to not only plan one wedding but move it, and we've actually moved it like 3 times now, so we're experts at this. We could be wedding planners. But yeah, it was very, very strange. But then eventually I ordered this dress, which arrived half an hour beforehand and fit like a glove, which was, thank you, Lord. But it was, yeah, for me, I think, I don't know about you, Michael, but that was for me. And then the neighbours were out taking photos of me as I tottered to my Ford Fiesta to drive myself to the church. It was a bizarre, I just have a good sense of humour about it.
I got down, I popped up to the roof space and lifted a few decorations that we're going to use for the day to decorate the car park. We got married in our church's car park near a few trees that were there. I put on some rib bunting and a sign that says crossing wedding and God table and chairs and put wedding ducks on them and stuff like that.
Now, when he says wedding ducks, we had 2 duck ornaments that were dressed as a bride and a groom, just for a bit of background.
I know I'm quackers.
Not actual ducks. No ducks were harmed in the making of this wedding.
I was gonna say were the actual ducks, but no, they're not.
They're currently. Here's one of them. It was we're going to use that to sign. Say, all right, that's Mrs. Duck. So I got that sorted out, and then working out, I decided to broadcast it live on Facebook Live for our friends and family. And it was good for me in a sense because I didn't have my best man or anything like that to chat to or sell my own nerves.
And we're very, very close to the people in our bridal party and your groomsmen and stuff. Yeah,
like my groomsmen, my best man, they're all like my brothers I never had. And I was basically talking to people on Facebook Live, having a chat, and it calmed me a wee bit in that sense. It was the excitement and nerves. And then obviously my parents and that, your mum was your witness, my dad was my witness for the marriage schedule. We got that sorted out, and my dad held the rings and stuff like that. Our photographer took a few photographs for us, which was lovely. The minister who officiated us at our wedding was my uncle, and he was just wonderful.
Yeah, he was so good.
He was so good.
Everyone was so respectful with social distancing and everything as well. Like we had a really good, like obviously I was gonna say we had a really good group of people around us, but that's probably because they were all family members who are sensible.
Sensible. Who are involved in the health in the NHS trust, or who have family who are not well and things like that.
Yeah.
Take social distancing
seriously,
very seriously, extremely seriously as well.
So when
sorry. No, go ahead.
When you got married then, so you've had this marriage, people are there. Were you expecting to be in lockdown this fall? Were you preparing for that, or were you?
No.
Oh, we initially rescheduled our big wedding for the 4th of November 2020.
Yeah.
And everyone at that point thought that would be absolutely
grand.
No problem. So of course that's been and gone.
We picked the 8th of September
21,
which is the day before my great uncle's 72nd birthday, and it's a week before your grandparents' anniversary. Your dad was telling me, and that made him emotional.
And I really don't think that's going to happen either. And by that point, people are going to just be fed up with us and they're not going to want to come to this day.
Then I have my great uncles and aunts who are so excited for the celebration. Like they're using it as like a celebration for us.
Yeah.
But also for normality. Because in my head, when we phone people saying we're getting married Saturday, I thought they're going to be so upset. But I discovered the opposite. They were delighted, praying that we will have a great sunny day, love and best wishes. Oh, it's going to be on Facebook Live. Can you send me the link? I want to watch it on my break.
Yeah, I think a lot of people watched it. So that helped that because we streamed it, people were able to watch it. Whereas I think if it had been completely, detached, people would have been a bit more annoyed. Like, for example, like I was thinking about my granny, wasn't I? Yeah. My nanny. Yeah. I was worried about her, but the family were able to put it on in the garden and she was able to watch it. So it wasn't such a big deal.
People actually got dressed up
Yeah, as if they were coming to the wedding and watched it, and people had a drink, like a cup of tea or a drink of Schlur or a drink of wine or whatever they wanted, and we're like, woo!
And people watched it. Well, your maid of honor was an ICU nurse, and she watched it on her tea break.
Yeah,
with colleagues.
And like a lot of colleagues that I used to work with and stuff were messaging me and saying they all watched it and they were so happy. So it was really lovely.
Yeah, the camera collapsed on me
And you nearly had a breakdown.
And you had a breakdown because people thought I was having a breakdown, but all I could see was a black screen. But people could see me going, no, come on. But all I saw was a black screen, but people could see me having a panic.
But then people were commenting, "It's okay, Michael, take your time."
And I rebroadcast it and everything was okay.
But yeah, it was a bit strange, wasn't it?
It was a bit strange. And then, we like going for photographs, and luckily we had a good friend of yours who let us use her field.
Yes, she had land and she let us use her field for some social distance photographs of just the two of us a field, which worked out quite well. A bit of imagination.
We had an honorary flower girl, Evelyn.
Yes, an honorary flower girl.
Yeah, who's been through a lot herself with spina bifida, and she's lovely. She was lovely. We just seen her in her wee flower girl crying, and she was lovely.
And we didn't initially have a flower girl as part of our bridal party, so that was a bonus.
So it adds on to it, yeah.
It adds on to it, and then just chatting to them via social distancing as the photographer was getting ready to set up or changing his camera or whatever. It was just lovely too.
Yeah,
just
different to the day we planned, but lovely.
Yeah,
that's great. And a lot of people will say 10 months is a short time to be married, but I know you work, Amy. You go out and work and stuff, but when you're not working, you're at home.
We're stuck here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really, it's kind of adding on the time in a sense, if you like. Yeah. So, what's been the key to keeping you guys kind of? I'm sure you do bicker like all couples, but what's keeping you kind of close and keeping you going and motivated and staying faithful to the Lord and all that good stuff during this time?
Medication. No, I'm joking. Honestly, like anyone who is with a spouse or a sibling or a close family member or someone they love in lockdown will know it is the most you will ever be in four walls with another person, and it is challenging, but I think in a way it's actually, we'll never be together this much again. And when we first got married, I'm studying, and the university and Oc Health and stuff held me back because at that point we didn't know what the risks were of me being out. Obviously now there's lots of safeguarding in place and there's lots of PPE and it's well managed. But at that point my immunity wasn't very good and they held me back. So we literally, Michael was on furlough and I was off, and we were together all the time. And I think we've walked miles because we just had nothing else to do. Yeah,
we went along like National Trust walks,
coastal walks, forest walks,
anywhere basically that had a walking trail. We went on it.
But we have had to spend an awful lot of time indoors, and I think part of it is probably our faith is the fact that Michael laughs at me because Michael says that, I don't know if I'm allowed to brand drop here, but Michael says all the time Amy never has UCB off, but I never have the radio off, and I think. For me, I have a very sort of different faith and way of coping with things than you do. But for me, having the radio on, if I'm out in community working or anything, I will always make sure I've got my radio on, and it just helps to keep me just grounded and, surrounded by all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But hearing the word and, hearing worship music and stuff really helps me. And I try to keep that playing around the house. And I know that sounds really cheesy, but that I just think... Yeah. For me, particularly when we've had this bad weather and it's the dark evenings and stuff like that, and everyone's got a low mood to start with, it's just been trying to keep that in our home and just trying to, I think, just be patient with each other and fair to each other, because, Keith, you live, with your mummy, anyone that lives with someone, you just want to get out of the house sometimes, and there's nowhere for us to go. There's no cinemas or anything. We can't just disappear with our friends and be like, oh, I'll be back later, love. If we're getting a bit annoyed, we can't, you just have to, you can't even really most of the time go out for a walk because you're only meant to be going for your one walk again at the minute. So it's a bit like prison. No, I'm only joking.
Be my prison guarders. I think it's also brought us closer together because then you see we're growing patience and getting to know more and more of each other, our different wee traits and stuff like that, and just grow more in patience, and she's a very patient lady. Winston Churchill says the greatest achievement of his life was convincing his wife to marry him, and I share that sentiment. That's the greatest achievement of my life. Second to giving my life to Jesus Christ, but
and the biggest mistake.
you know, that's the biggest mistake, but it is difficult because Amy during the pandemic, because of the pandemic, different things.
I think we've been through a lot, considering what most people go through in the first few years of marriage. Like, we've had quite a few slaps in the face, but actually, you know, it has just shown us, like, we've gone down to one income, whereas we were both onto comfortable incomes. And it's not all about money, but, you know, we came into the marriage very different to the way we thought we were, but it's actually kind of shown us the importance of just having each other and sticking together, and, you know, having to work things out and, you know, live in the real world, which actually I think has been really helpful, because it's just sort of, if we can get through this, you know, it can only really, the only way is up.
And the way also I want to add to, I'm not trying to be a holy man, but also made us rely on God more. In the sense of, okay, Lord, been made redundant.
This is where we're at.
This is where we're at. And then, okay, I got this job, it's temporary, it could be full time. Sorry, we're letting you go due to the pandemic again. We're just leaving it in the hands of God, and things do
almost
work it out again.
Do you know when you get people reading out 1 Corinthians at weddings, like love is patient, love is kind?
Yes.
It's kind of like you've had to live that out in reality together, because all come out once for you guys, and it's encouraging, because a lot of people will have stumbled at the first hurdle in relationships, and I know there's a big strain of marriages and stuff like that, but it is encouraging to see you guys still going and talking about it in that sense.
And I think as well, you know, like, it goes both ways. Like, Michael sort of feels, you know, obviously with the redundancies and stuff, that's challenging, but I would argue as well, you know, having someone in the household who's working for the NHS at the minute, it's very high pressure, it's very stressful, it's a constant worry, and I would say I'm not very easy to live with when I come home in a strop after that, or, you know, I'm very realistic about that as well. And I have to say, you know, Michael came into this marriage without a cooking skill to his name. However, Michael has a totally different man. He is well trained at this stage, which I've managed to get 5 years of training into 10 months for my house husband.
I like how you've got a timeline of 5 years.
That's what I think. I think that's kind of, it's almost like, or maybe 7, you know, like the 7-year itch. That's usually when people start to go down the slippery slope. So it's like, I just think, you know what, that's the sort of like where the point where you're going to know or not. And I think, like, we're sort of like, well, it can't get any worse. So
like,
we're in this together.
Just to clarify, I was a microwave ready meal carry it kind of guy, or in my case, my mother would cook a lot and my dad would cook a lot. So when I came in, I was a disaster at the kitchen at some point.
But now he is excellent.
I haven't killed her.
No food poisoning incidents.
No, I haven't done that
yet.
Confirm. I can confirm. But also, I'm glad you mentioned that passage from 1 Corinthians 13 where it says it bears all things, endures all things. And in lockdown, we have to bear so much of our restrictions, and we have to bear with this not seeing people. Like, for a time, we were bubbleless, you know, because both our families had to support other relatives. And thankfully now we are now in support bubble with Amy's mum now, which is great. But it was difficult because you do miss that sort of connecting with people, and interacting, and just, you know, that kind of thing. That's social. Like, we are social creatures, but also it also made us endure and be closer together and rely on Christ and His Word.
Definitely.
And I understand when Amy comes home tired, stressed, or as she said, in the strop, and it is a stressful time. You're always wearing PPE, washing the hands and everything. What I do is, as soon as she comes home, there's always a cup of tea or a hot water bottle or something for her, and make sure she is rest and relaxed after her long day. And sometimes people might think I'm rude. I might not ask straight away, "How is your day?" I wait for her to chill for a couple of minutes and then ask her how her day is.
I thought you were going to say you wait for me to chill for a couple of days, like what? Let her settle, and then
what I mean.
3 days later, how you doing?
What I mean is, I let her just get comfy, relax, and then
Yeah.
let her pour out what you want
And
to
it's
that
even
day.
things like that, you know, like it's obviously it is like intense all the time now, and it's like, you know, even just getting to know that, like, okay, I've not lived with her before, so she likes to unwind when she gets home, and obviously because of the PPE and stuff, she needs to get a shower and she needs to get sorted, and then like just even getting to know each other from just a really practical point of view, like, right, okay, she's been in work, you know, what can I do to help her when she gets in, and then actually what way will she then respond to me, you know, like just help, but just being a help to each other, you know.
Getting the washing your uniforms, getting them dry for the next day. It sounds stupid,
really
but
practical things.
Yeah, it sounds stupid.
And whereas before when we were both working, that probably wouldn't have been Michael's role.
Yeah.
You know, like it's interesting because it's you think of these roles, like I'm quite I don't know what way you would put it, I'm quite well house trained, and I, like, you know, when my mummy brought me up to be able to do all these things, and I probably just would have naturally done those and let Michael do other things, but actually our roles have changed a lot. Like I call you the house husband, which is meant in the most respectful and grateful of ways.
I can cook, I can clean, I can use the washing machine, I can iron.
But that would have never been something you could have done before.
I can do a bit of ironing before I got married, I must confess. I could do that, okay.
Michael's a smart dresser, he needs an iron for his shirts.
Yeah, thank you. First compliment of the day.
It's up to me.
I hear you. Kate, I couldn't tell you the last time I used an iron in my own clothes, but there we are.
Yeah, but even that sort of old-fashioned mentality where, you know, the man has to do the work and be out all the time, earn the wage, and it's not my fault I'm in this predicament. I didn't go looking for the pandemic. The pandemic came and turned everyone's lives upside down.
But I think it's made us less superficial because we're not looking at it like that, like, oh, wanting to be like a kept woman or whatever. You know, we are looking at it as, you know what, the Lord has really blessed us with one income, with one stable income, and actually that's more than a lot of people have. So, you know, there's a saying in Northern Ireland, wind your neck in. So a lot of people are like, wind your neck in, and you know, well, that's what I think, like, just wind your neck in, and you're luckier than a lot of people. And obviously in my job I see a lot of people who are in poverty and stuff, and I think it just sometimes it just puts it into perspective. You know, we are so fortunate, and you know, if the worst thing that happened to us is that we had a wee delayed wedding and we've one less salary, well, you know.
Yeah, but also the fact is that when I'm doing the housework, I'm treating it as a job. Whereas at this hour, I'm doing this job, this hour, when it's all done, Amy can come into a house that's clean, tidy, her uniform's ready for the next day or her next shift, and her old stuff will be immediately washed, and we're working as a team. We're helping each other out. The quote the cheesy saying, teamwork makes the dream work. I cringe when I hear that phrase, but it is so true. You know, it takes the stress off each other.
Yeah, definitely.
I think you kind of covered the questions there, so I'm going to just chuck some biblical thoughts out to you, if that's all right, and you can put it in the most practical manner that you know, just for curiosity and people listening and stuff like that. And I think it's a common thing as well for people to be confused about certain Bible verses and stuff. So in Ephesians, it talks about the man being the head of the household. How does that work out in a proper marriage, and what does that mean for you guys to be together, and what does that mean? That's the question. What does that mean?
Do you want to go first?
That's something you hear like all the time. I think a lot of people think that means that the man has to be the breadwinner, that the man has to have the biggest income, that the man, you know, but I actually just think, you know, really, yes, it is important that you have a head of the household, and I'm, you know, I don't know, I'm very, what way would you put it, modern? And I think, you know, yes, we're equal and stuff like that, but at the same time, you know, although maybe I'm bringing in the income and stuff like that, you know, Michael you're still, you know, I'm trying to think of the way to word it, you're still the protector over the household, and you're still
spiritually leading it.
Yeah, I'm just the neck that turns the head.
Well, if I can pick up what you said about the neck, there was a famous quote by Matthew Henry. You know, the woman was created out of a rib, not be ahead, to be above him, not to be on his feet, to be crushed by him, but to be by his side, to be his beloved, to be a helper. I remember one preacher saying, "Man, the only reason why we got a helper is because we need help."
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that to say that's all she is limited for. That's not the case. But when it says to be the head of the home, the household, you're leading not just from a practical end of bringing in the money. For instance, my mother and father, my mum was a stay-at-home mum and take care of everything my father did. I'm not knocking that at all. Or as I know, two friends of mine, both parents are workers and they went to their grandmothers or had now. It's whatever works for that particular context. But to be the head of the household, then you have to look at this. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. And that, you can't have that one first cherry picked on a tweet or a Facebook post. You have to quote the second one. Because we, as a husband, I'm called to love my wife as Christ loved the church. And how much did Christ love the church? He established it. He died for it. He caused it to move, to grow. He teaches us to love one another, to forgive one another, to not hold sins into our account for an argument in the future, but to grow, to spread the good news. And that for me is a big responsibility. Am I loving my wife as Christ loved the church? And I'm growing that daily, every day. And anyone who's married for a long time will probably agree. Love.
And Amy, you making it easy for him? Do you love you like Christ loves the church?
Yeah.
I know. But I was gonna say,
I think though, like for any, I'm no pastor and I'm no preacher, but I think for any sort of young couples out there or young single people that do think, obviously I am, like, I'm no authority on this, but I think for anyone going into it who thinks, my husband, my spouse, my future partner needs to be able to provide for me. Sometimes you just need to look at that a little bit, differently and just think, what, actually, your partner can be the head of the home without necessarily, it's okay for one of you to have, you need to work out what's best for you, basically. If one of you has better earning potential in your job, if one of you, that doesn't make the man any less masculine, it doesn't make the man any less the head. At the same time, as you say, it shouldn't be the head of the home in terms of the woman being crushed underneath the head of that home. You need to work and complement each other, and you need to work out what works for you, and you need to not be sexist about it, because sometimes I'm very blessed that although this pandemic is rubbish, I'm never going to be out of a job. I'm never going to lose my income, which is a real blessing. And I know that you need to have a sense of humor about that at the minute, and people are really on their knees in the NHS, and it is a very difficult time. But really, I'm in a position where I won't lose my job, and we are so blessed by that. And I never thought I'd be the breadwinner, and that probably isn't what I thought when I was going to my youth, that I would find in a husband. But actually, it works for us, and it works for me seeing that Michael has really stepped up to help me with the keeping of the home, because this is one of my busiest times from a work point of view. And the fact that Michael has had the maturity and the confidence to put his hand to new skills to really help me out and keep our house ticking over, that to me is like the best thing he could have done to be head of our house. It's very cheesy, but it just shows you it's just different to what you think. And we hear the head of the house and we think, oh, masculine, caveman, breadwinner, and actually it can be lots of different things. And I know young men who look after the children because their wife is on big money in their job, and that's okay too. You look after our cat.
I do. He's like our son. He's upstairs sleeping because he would attack the tripod because he hears people on the screen and he thinks that they're trapped in the phone or the iPad, so he tries to rescue them.
That's trying to save people.
Yeah, exactly.
If I could touch back, because I love what you said and I agree. When you look at love your wife as Christ loved the church, love is spelled LOVE, but it's also spelled TIME, time. Spending time with each other, but also being, as a man, as a head of the household, you need to spend time with Christ. Asking God to help you, to lead you, and ask for him to be more in you. As John the Baptist says, he must increase and I must decrease, and to grow in that, because that is important. When I'm doing the house jobs, I'm praying to God, I'm praying for my other half, I'm praying for the family, praying for her work colleagues. Always have my phone ring in case she needs something, like, you know, it's just to be that awareness.
Yeah. And just to bounce off that, time with Christ, this is the last question, and I don't know if you're up for the game, but if you are, you might need paper and pens.
Yeah, we can definitely find paper and pens. That's fine.
While you're doing that, I might do a summary. So really quickly then, just one more thing. So when you are together, how important is it for you to have time to pray and Bible study together if you do, or do you prefer to do that separately, or is that something that you see key as a couple to do when you love Jesus? Or
yeah, we do it separately, and obviously because Michael preaches itinerantly, he would have his nose in the books and need to do a lot of that on his own because he needs to develop his sermons and stuff, and I understand that, but at the same time I have a really unique situation where, you know, even though I can do my private Bible study and, you know, different things like that, and like one thing that I do, it's just really simple, but one thing I do is I just go through my like verse of the day on my Bible app. Whenever I'm in work on my lunch break, I just scoot through. I don't know if anyone's got it up to date, but they have like a devotion, and then they go through and they have some thoughts and stuff, and I flick through that sort of whenever I'm in lunch. And obviously that's not, Michael's not with me on my lunch break. And then but I'm in a very unique position where I get to watch Michael film all of his sermons. So anything I do, you always would bounce them off of me, and that's sort of like a study on its own, because you would say, you know, because Michael's like, I don't know, what would you say? You're the brains. Well, no, theologically, yeah. But I'm quite good with the English language, so I would usually be Michael's SPG checker. And so I would go through that. So I get like a bonus point every week whenever I'm going through. But we do some study together as well. And I'm trying to look for it. Someone bought us a really lovely couples devotion book whenever Quiet Times for Couples. And it's really lovely, like, and it's really cheesy and stuff, but actually it's, you know, it's not like, you know, I know it sounds really cheesy, but it's actually really helpful because it touches on stuff that's really applicable to us. So we would always watch church together. Obviously we don't go, and that's one thing that we are missing is our church community and stuff, but we would always watch church together on a Sunday. And I'm really lucky that even though, you know, obviously I do work in a 24-hour service, I'm generally quite lucky that managers do give me Sundays off because they know that I'm a Christian and that's my preference. I do work the odd Sunday, but most of the time we're free together.
Yeah, once in a few blue moons.
Yeah, it's only if, you know, it's really needed, or I need the experience, or, you know, on a certain day or in a certain place.
Or when they're texting saying we're on our knees, can you help us?
Yeah, but we, I do think it is important because, to be honest, you know, you both need to be spiritually fed, but also it's important that sometimes we just very naturally will be like, I've seen this, what do you think? Or sometimes I'll get Michael to, you know, although I'm able to independently look at things, sometimes I'll just be like, Michael, could you explain what you think that means to me? And then likewise, you know, there might be a word you don't understand. Michael has dyslexia, so sometimes there might be a word. Michael's fairly well versed with the whole Bible, but having been a Bible college student, but there might be something that you're, you know, in a different translation that you're like, well, what, you know, and stuff like that. So we kind of work together, but we do definitely independently as well, like, because you would just be in so much more depth than me, because Michael has, I'm going to say, upwards of 200 books in this house, which is a lot more than me. But we
before lockdown, just I'm similar to him. All mine moved to the church office that I work out of. So they're all in the church office, not the house. And I'm missing some of them because I try obviously to work from home as much as possible.
Yeah. They are good though, in fairness, because whenever, you know, it means you always have resources on hand for your sermons, which actually has been so good because you've been able to preach for a lot of people.
Yeah, for when we started going out, I turn preaching started for me. That's a few engagements here and there, but recently, just before we got married and after, I preached the day after our wedding.
Yeah.
And that was a big conviction I had to keep preaching.
To just keep the dates that you'd planned already.
Because I was preaching for churches at that time that had no social media presence or no Facebook Live and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or covering for pastors who needed a break, who were not well, you know, that kind of thing. And then just growing it from there, and then different engagements came up. Would you mind speaking for me for here? Different invitations. So I'm constantly reading and studying, and my head's never really out of a book or an e-book or whatever. Even though I do prefer to have an old-fashioned paperback on my hand where I can use a pencil and highlight something, or I love a great second-hand book. And sometimes you find an old preacher from like the 1900s and have written a very interesting phrase, and you're thinking, wow, it was written yesterday.
Yeah.
But when we study together or pray together or listen, I believe a couple should listen to also a pastor as well, be under a shepherd, to listen, to grow in that, and say, well, what do you think about that message?
Yeah.
What's that got to think about? What was that verse he was on about? Then we look it up together.
Yeah.
We used the, not trying to plug, but I remember the Christmas devotionals, New Springs Church. We read that together, and we enjoyed going through that together.
Yeah.
We went through Esther. I've been told not to read the Gospel of Luke for a wee while because I was obsessed with it for over a year. All my sermons from the Gospel.
Everything was, look, that was when you were still preaching, I think, live in people's churches. And I was like, Michael, I've just picked up on something here. And actually, I think it's time to move along so that they don't think that you've only read the one book.
And then for the kids, I did the full Gospel of Mark. I did a teenage discipleship group. So we went from the Gospel of Mark chapter 1 all the way up to 16.
Wow.
And I've learned not to do that again, to put a break in between.
Yeah, it's heavy.
It is heavy, doing that expository, going through it verse by verse. But
it's all of that kind of stuff that I then get exposure to, because obviously, you know, things that are usually on in church aren't on and stuff like that. And, you know, even just fellowship with Christian friends that you maybe go out for a coffee and they would be bouncing things off of you, who maybe go to different churches and are parts of different congregations and stuff, who might be learning something completely different. You know, you don't have all of that the way you would. And like the first thing, you know, you say whenever you finally talk to someone on the phone, you don't always want it to be like, let's study together, because you don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people, like a lot of our friends, for example, have had babies in the lockdown that we've never met. So like usually it tends to involve a bit of crying if you're on Zoom to any of them as well. So it's just different times.
Yeah, or stress because they bought a house and they're moving into a house and they just need someone to talk to. And then out of nowhere they start asking things about God. What do you think about this?
Yeah.
And just let it be natural. And also that is also a time for us to grow together, but also encourage others, because we want our marriage always to reflect Christ and his good. We're not perfect, we'll make mistakes, but we want to show people like there is hope, there is love, there is peace in Christ. We won't judge anyone, whatever they have done. We will show them the love of Christ and the mercy of Christ that we have been shown, and show them the true word of God whenever we can.
I know someone said to me today, I mentioned that Michael was hoping to be a pastor, and they were like, oh my goodness, but you're so normal. And I was like, well, normal's a strong word, but
Define
yes.
normal.
Yeah, it's that definitive word, isn't it? Well, I think it's a good opportunity to ask you guys to get a pen and paper. Also plug that Michael will be speaking for the Hilton Castle mission in a week's time. So next Sunday he'll be speaking at 6 p.m. on our Facebook, or join us on Zoom. Come have a coffee with him afterwards. You can grill him if you want to ask.
Ask me if you want to do and ask questions, anything, no holds barred. I love doing that. That gets my blood going, you know.
Great. Well, we're going to have a Zoom where I do that to you one day then.
Go for it.
You put yourself in it now.
So this is a game that I'm hoping doesn't cause trouble. So it's called Friends Like These, or
I've never played it, so
it goes by different names. So what's going to happen is one of you is going to be A, one of you is going to be B. So I'll let you guys decide that out. That's your first.
I'm A.
Okay. So what's going to happen is I'm going to ask a few questions. You got to write down an answer for it, and then when I say reveal, we're going to see how many questions you get correct.
Okay.
All right, and it's about each other. It's not just like random questions. Okay, so for example, this is an example. Okay, so for example, I could ask, what is A's favorite chocolate? and then you would write down your favorite chocolate, and B would try to guess it. Now, by the look of Michael's face, if you're not watching this on YouTube or being able to see it, he doesn't know.
Oh, I remember now. I remember.
You remembered it. Okay. So don't look too horrified. We haven't started the game yet. All right, here we go. You ready? Friends
Yeah.
like this. I feel like I should have a theme tune for this, but I don't. There you go. That's why I have you guys on. Okay. So here we go. So friends like these. First question. All right. If A could live anywhere in the world, where would A choose to live? So A, where would you choose?
A doesn't even know the answer to this.
And he hasn't got an answer. Oh, I thought that would be an easy one. Do you want to move on?
So A would go. I want to guess. This
Anywhere in the world.
Anywhere in the world.
one. I want to guess this one.
Okay. This could be very interesting right now.
Okay.
Okay, we're ready? All
Yeah.
right. So, B, whatever you put.
I put down Dubai because she went on a lovely holiday with one of her best friends, and I hear lots of stories about it.
All right. And A, whatever you put.
Right. So I'm a National Trust and a Beatrix Potter fan. So I've said Hilltop Farm.
Okay.
That was my second guess.
Well,
Sure it
Dubai and Hilltop Farm, they're very similar. All right, here we go. So it's your turn, Amy, to guess Michael's answer. You ready?
Right.
Okay. I'll try to make them a little bit less obscure now. Okay. So if Michael had a choice, so if B had a choice here, okay, between a night in where he's watching a movie or a night in where he's playing board games, what night would he choose? A movie night or a board games night?
Right. I've got mine.
You got it? All right. B, you got it? Okay. Here we go. So A, what have you put?
Movie night.
Movie night. All right. And
Correct, Amondo. Movie night.
movie night. All right. Here we go. Because
Yay!
it's on movie night, I can ask this question now. If A had to choose what movie you were going to watch, would A choose a comedy, a romantic comedy, or an action film?
This is one I know well. I'm probably going to suggest what film it will be.
Oh,
Right.
and a film. Okay. So, B, what?
I've run out of space, but I'll explain to you what I mean. I've wrote it in shorthand.
Okay.
So, can I go?
Yeah.
Okay, so my beloved would choose a romantic comedy.
Yeah.
With Bridget Jones's trilogy.
Yes.
Okay.
I put Bridget Jones ×3. That means trilogy.
Don't judge me, people. Don't judge me.
I now know every single word that Colin Firth says in the movie now.
We apologise for the swearing.
Yeah.
We've seen it so many times.
So yes, romantic comedy was what I said as well.
Okay, well done. You're doing well here. Okay, here we go. All right, it's B's turn. All right, if B could have any meal, what meal would B go for? You look like you know this already.
Pizza.
Pizza?
Pizza.
Pizza. All right. What type of
At PBS
pizza?
school, it was National Pizza Day. I still haven't got a pizza.
Michael, you eat enough pizza to do anyone months.
That's true, though. I'll let her slide with that one.
Okay. This is going to be our last question, and it's going to be a very Christian one. All right. I want you to write down your favorite Bible verse or a Bible verse you're fond of, and then I want you to try to guess what the other person's Bible verse is going to be as well. For Michael, I think it's going to be something from Luke, I'm guessing, but I don't know. I didn't want to influence your answer there, Amy. Okay, so what Bible verse do you think B has gone for here? What do you think Michael's put?
John 14:1.
All right, and what
That is
what verse do you think A has gone for?
Proverbs 3, verse 5 and 6. And she got mine right too.
Correct. That's it.
I am amazed. I thought, you know what, this is meant to be a Christian podcast, and I can guarantee you I'm going to get this wrong and look terrible.
But in fairness, though, I did spend nearly a year in Luke's Gospel.
Yeah, no, I'm really impressed you got mine.
Well, I remember it because it was my great great aunt's favorite Bible verse too. She was 106 and a half when she passed away, so I remembered that. And I made a note of it in my Bible, so I didn't forget.
All right, let me let you guys give out what the Bible verses actually say for those who are listening. So, Amy, what does your favorite Bible verse, what does it say?
Right. So, what version would you like it in? Because I only know it in my version.
Let's do your version.
Hang on.
Your version.
I don't even know exactly what my version says. I can get
NLT.
NLT. Yeah, exactly. Hang on.
And Michael, you know your favorite Bible verse.
Right. So basically, mine is about in everything you do. So I'm going to go more with the Message version, but basically in everything you do, trust in the Lord. For every path you take, acknowledge him. But so yours is different because you're King James, but I'm NLT. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek his will in all you do, and he will show you which path to take. So just about not relying on yourself. Pray, with everything you do, and then you'll know which way to go if you're dependent on the person that knows where you're going, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
For me, it is John 14, verse 1. I was brought up in a mixture of King James Version, the NIV, NLT, and then New King James Version. So I'm reading this from the New King James Version. Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. And I learned this verse when my grandfather died. And this has been my rock, my anchor in different situations in life, and Amy can attest to it.
Yeah.
And for also, I can testify to Proverbs 3, verse 5 and 6.
I think they're just both verses of like comfort, and reassurance and stuff, probably speaks a lot about both of us.
Yeah, because whatever we face, instead of facing the problem and panicking, we look up.
Yeah.
And we look up to Christ in that. It's like when Peter's walking on water to the Lord, and as soon as he took his eyes off the Lord, he started to sink.
Yeah.
And one of the things we've learned together is
if you take your eyes off the Lord, even like any Christian, if you're not getting your priorities right, you are going to start to sink, whether that be because you get overwhelmed or because you don't have that peace that you have in Christ, or whether it be because you're just wrapped up in too many things of the world. It's not going to be a good outcome for you if you don't just keep focusing back on Christ.
Yeah.
I think that's a good note to sorry, Michael, were you going to say something?
No, I was going to say I agree everything. I'm not trying to preach a sermon, but I always remember being taught the meaning of the word trust is to be on your knees, at hands, being helpless. And in this culture, we have to help ourselves, but sometimes we come to Christ, we're helpless, and Lord, help us, guide us, lead us, and we trust you.
Yeah,
that's the original relationship, isn't it? He created Adam to be in relationship with himself, and then sent Jesus once that was broken by sin, so we can be in a relationship. Guys, you've been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to just pray for you real quickly, and I'm going to pray for the listeners and those who are watching on YouTube. And Father in heaven, I just thank you for this unity of this couple. I pray that you'll just bless them, Lord. Give them prosperity in all that they do for your name, Lord. Let them see miracles. Let them touch lives. Lord, I pray for this podcast and those who are listening and watching, Lord, that you just bless them in whatever situation they're in. And Lord, if they need to reach out, just allow them to reach out to us as a church. In that precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
And if you've got any questions, any thoughts, do send us a message via Facebook or on our website, or you can find Michael as well on Facebook. I'm sure he wouldn't mind answering some tough questions. He seems keen for the tough question. Guys, thank you very much again. Thanks for those who have watched and listened, and be blessed, encouraged, and uplifted in the Lord. Amen.